Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. It is Wednesday, May 7th. Um, I was going to start with something else, but this thing happened with India and Pakistan. And the whispers of the brighter world messages that I believe in are part of the Sajmark system. These channeled messages with this French woman who's no longer alive, but she was like sort of an invalid who was a great channeler, whatever it is, right? Talked about these things in the past. But nuclear war was something that was mentioned, and 2000, at the end of this year, it seemed like it was hinted at there was going to be a nuclear event. And most people who read the messages would believe it would involve America, Russia, and China or something. America and somebody. And now with Trump, you would think that. But then this happened yesterday with India and Pakistan, which I have some kind of insight to.
Welcome to The Brief. I'm Jim Sciutto in New York. We begin early today with breaking news. India launching a military operation targeting what it calls terrorist infrastructure inside Pakistan and Pakistan-administered Kashmir. The sounds of explosions during those strikes. India says it struck 9 targets, adding that none of them are Pakistani military facilities.
Okay, so for those of people who aren't familiar with the Indian-Pakistani conflict, and I don't know what this guy's going to say next, but I wanted to start off with this map here. So the British, when they took over India, British, like, they took a bunch of Indian gold. There's a lot of gold in India, and they took the gold, the East Indian, the British East Indian Company or whatever it was. There was a guy who was called the Rothschilds of India that ran that company, and they extracted a lot of gold, and then they went to China and used the money that they extracted from India to addict the Chinese army to heroin. And then they took over China. That was that whole thing where China's like still pissed about. Like they just hold a grudge. I mean, over generations and all these different governments. And, what Britain did was divide and conquer. So if you ever seen the movie Gandhi, when the Indians finally got the British out of India, the British kept on saying, we can't leave, going up to that. Because as soon as we leave, the Muslims and the Hindus will tear each other to bits, right? The British came in, they had these British Rajas, they put people in charge, kings. Raj means king in India and in Hindi. And they were, people that they elevated, like they were sellouts, people who were complicit, in some way with the occupation. And so British had, exacerbated the hostilities between the Muslims and the Hindus. And so when Britain left, the Muslims and the Hindus went at it. And so this is the northern India part of northern India. And they decided just to split the country, not exactly in half, because there's a lot more Hindus than there are Muslims. And the Muslims went to this place called Pakistan, but this is like people who are living next to each other, right? So this is like, really bad, like, non-military civil war, where people were going, forming gangs of hostile people, like throwing babies up against walls. I mean, crazy shit, like just savage stuff. And it was, like I said, exacerbated by the British doing this divide and conquer. What you see now, like it would be if there was a civil war between the Democrats and the Republicans, and, you'd had armed Americans killing each other without any sort of organization, just like, going to your next door neighbor who has a Trump sign and, shooting him and his family, or the opposite, like this kind of thing, right? Like there'd be some kind of civil war. So it's something to watch because, this totally could happen. You see the hatred that's brewing in America. If there was a collapse of the American government and how this would play out, right? Because of all of these things. But that's what happened. And the issue then became Kashmir, which was this border place, beautiful place. People go like vacation there. It's in the mountains, a colder place in India. And China has some claim to it as well because they invaded and took Tibet. Like this is the, part of the Himalayas, the gateway to the Himalayas area. And China, you can see, has some area here. And then Pakistan has this, and this is India's area, and then they have this disputed area. And China has been allied with Pakistan. And so Pakistan, according to the Indians, had just killed 24 people vacationing in Kashmir. So, like I know about, like I was in southern India, and in northern India, you have more of the military type, fighter type, aggressive meat eating people there, because this part of the India was often invaded by the Mongols and the what was the whatever Hitler ended up the Aryans. There's this group called the Aryans. Of course, Hitler took over this idea of the Aryans, where Hitler, the swastika is a sign that means the beginning, and it's an ancient Indian symbol that Hitler that he plagiarized basically. In the centerpiece of there's a mission badge, an emblem, and the Sajmarg emblem, and it starts off with a swastika at the beginning. And we used to wear this badge and go through airports. It was a way to recognize other people who did the meditation. But let me show you that emblem, right? So there's these Aryans, and I'm not so familiar with who they are historically, but I know there was an Indian invasion. And a lot of the Indians in that area are more light-skinned, right? In Sajmarg, they would talk about how India was more, they've been invaded by various groups of people, and they just incorporated the culture of those groups, like they are flexible. They were able to adapt to the British rule or these other groups, and they just included the cultures and the cultural traditions. And so this is a Sajmarg. I should have this the book open that explains it. There's a whole thing. But Sri Ramchandra Mission. It starts with a swastika, and it means just starting point. It has nothing to do with Hitler. It's an ancient Indian symbol that Hitler took. And the goal is, here's the path through all these difficulties. And then you go beyond that. The goal is beyond the light. The sun represents divine light, and you go beyond that. There's a more substantial explanation. But, it became a thing where Europeans, like this European woman, designed a like a stained glass, one of the members of the mission for the ashram they had. Like she was somebody who made stained glass, and she made this window, and she made these swastika into just 4 lines, like a plus sign. And Babaji, the second master, is like, "What is this? This isn't right." And she was trying to explain to him what this would mean to Europeans because of Hitler, and but of course Hitler isn't, European history isn't the only history, right? Like so. And this is actually a reverse swastika. It's in the opposite direction. Oftentimes you'll see it with little, dots in it. But it represents various things in Indian culture. For this particular thing, it's the starting point. It's where people start off from. But, like it's, of course, in Europe, it's something else. So, the people here are, they're more militarized, like the people, and there was people from both the, Hindu and Muslim people were very prominent in this area, in the northern India area, and that's where Sajmarg, the meditation, began. There's a lot of Muslims. There's Sufi saints that played some role, like the first original masters were from the northern part of India. And they were both Hindu, but they were influenced by these, the Sufi. There's Muslims who are like meditators, and and the Sufism, which is a interesting thing. But I've talked about, and you guys might be aware of this, most of you, the heartfulness when Saj Marg went south with this guy Dodgy and heartfulness. He started this thing called the Brighter Mind scam. And when I started to post about like my concerns about what's happened with Saj Marg and under Dodgy's leadership and lack thereof, some people started to write to me and say, "Have you heard about the Brighter Mind scam?" And I was like, "No, I haven't." And so, some people explained it to me, and then I, did my own research in it. And so what this was there's this thing called midbrain activation, and it was a scam where they would claim that if you did certain exercises, one of which is you rub your belly and pat your head at the same time. You're making a circular motion on your belly, and you're patting your head up and down at the same time. And you had to be between the ages of, a toddler and a kid, and you couldn't be older than 15 years old because, you were going to, it ended up being peeking through blindfolds. But then they would say, all right, you're not going to use your eyes, and we've activated your midbrain, this imaginary thing that exists between the hemispheres. And you now can use your other senses to see. And so they would put on these blindfolds, and what would happen was kids would cheat, right? So there's this doctor from Houston. He's an Indian guy, but he grew up in America. It's very American in his, like he's been his whole life in America. And him and his wife were both doctors. And Dodgy ended up glomming onto this idea, and it ties into this whole thing, this story here, at least in terms of my knowledge of this area. And so this doctor contacts me, and we had multiple conversations. And he said what would happen is they put on the blindfolds, and they would put like 4 balls in a bag. And you'd pull out a ball, and they would, you would ask to see the color with either smelling it or touching it, you by feel or by tapping it next to your ear, and the color was supposed to appear in your mind because of your this midbrain activation thing that's happened, right? And this guy was asked, the other scientists who did Saj Marg were asked to validate this scam, right? And he didn't want to risk his reputation, and like he knew it was fucking goofy, right? So he used eye patches. Then there's another guy who's not related to the Saj Marg system who had already exposed the midbrain activation. This guy's a part of what's called the Rationalist Society. And there's just a lot of religious weird shit that's believed in India. And this guy tries to debunk all of it. He's like an atheist, and he goes around and debunks this stuff. And he had already used eye patches. And when he used eye patches, it wouldn't work. And this guy who called me, this doctor that contacted me, said that he used eye patches and it didn't work. And there's the original guy who's connected to this Kashmir thing in my family. Dodgy there's this kid who my kids knew about him. Like my kids hung out with him. His mom was talking to my ex about homeschooling because we were homeschooling our kids, and she wanted to homeschool this kid. And I knew the dad for a while. Like I just I'd interact with him. He sold chairs to people, that folding chairs that you carry into these gatherings and things, that were a little bit more comfortable sitting on the ground when there wasn't enough chairs. And he had other things in his shop. I bought some things from him. And we had a few conversations like I knew him. So like our two families knew each other. And this kid was like kind of a scammer. He was like a Trump. He was sort of a bullshitter. And so he did this midbrain activation scam. And as a kid, and he had this personality. And him and his family went to vacation in Kashmir, and they had never gone on a vacation before. They had traveled to these gatherings and things, so that was what people do, spending their free time going to gatherings. And his dad would often sell chairs at the gathering, so he would, it would be sort of a business thing. And this kid came back, and there was a flood, and they were in this hotel looking down at the, looking across at other buildings collapsing. And this kid was in the middle of a bunch of adults telling these stories. And he had this story. He was a very good storyteller. Like he had that natural sort of Trump kind of gift where he was, a bullshitter, like somebody who's good at, winning over a crowd. And all these people from like Europe and America, they're sitting around adults and he's telling the story. He's like, and there's a dead guy who had drowned. And then when the water receded, the guy was laying on top of the hood of the car and his arms were spread out like Jesus. It was like he was telling the story. And, I was like, this kid's got like a gift, right? And his mom and Daji were close. They were from the same part of India. And so the kid, one of the things they do is you end up reading by feeling the letters with your hands, but then you end up doing it with your feet because they train you how to peek through the blindfold. Like the kid learns how to do it on their own. And so the kid went to see Daji and he read with his feet, and Daji was blown away because he's a fucking idiot, right? Like he's a moron. And he tells everybody, this is a great thing, we should do this. And he takes the mid-brain activation scam and makes it his own. And he ends up franchising it. He ends up talking Abhyasi people to quit their jobs, people who did the Sajmark meditation, which he's now calling Heartfulness, and franchise this. There's a franchise in fucking Chicago, like there's franchises in America. And they're selling a scam, right, that had already been debunked as a scam. And Daji was too stupid to know it. And my son knew, was hanging out with this kid. And everyone knew this kid was just a bullshitter. Like he was he would exaggerate things. He was very performative. He was a person that thrived off attention. And I asked my son, when you heard about it, what did everybody say? And we all knew it. And he said, it's, let's say the kid's name is Johnny. It's not. But he goes, everyone knew it because it was Johnny. Like, everyone knew it was Johnny fucking. But Kamlesh was too stupid to see through this kid, who everyone knew as a bullshitter because he's too detached. Like, this kid was, like, semi-famous for being, one of those, like, not trustworthy, like a little Bart Simpson running around. And so Daji got bullshitted by the kid, and then he was, franchising this whole thing. And before you know it, he was, like, ass deep into it because he couldn't. In India, it's about saving face. There's this woman that came, wrote a comment and said that she was, an Australian woman who dated an Indian guy. And she said that she couldn't deal with it because, when he would do something wrong and they would have, like, conversations about it, the guy couldn't lose face and admit to something. Always had to, and it's part of the culture, and it's much more, like you see it with Trump and other politicians and people when they've been caught, they don't want to lose face. But, it's not nearly as bad as it is in India. It's like the shame of the village. Like it's like this whole thing. And somebody who's supposed to be a spiritual master to get duped like this. So this doctor contacts me, and he says, that he tested these kids, and he tested this main kid, the first kid that went to Daji, and none of them could do it. Like they all couldn't do it, right? And so, what he found out was the kids would get these. They put 4 different colored balls in a bag, and they put 4 kids together, and this is how they would get the kids to do it. Right? It's really scummy, and the kids would hold the ball out, and they could peek through the blindfold. Like the blindfold wasn't, blindfolds are often not 100%, and they would move the blindfold to where they could see it, and they would cheat. And there's multiple adults that are there, and later on there'll be other kids who know how to do it, right? And when they cheat and they look through it, like the adults aren't telling them to do it, but they're not telling them not to. And when the kid says it's orange and he's right, then everyone goes, "Oh my God, you're so great, you're amazing! Wow, this is incredible!" And the other kids feel like shit, so they start cheating, and they all just start doing this. And like they had, this scam had been exposed multiple times because the kids are peeking through blindfolds and they're cheating. And the adults can say, hey, we didn't tell them to cheat. It's this bullshit kind of just scummy thing, right? But anyways, this kid and his family went to Kashmir when there was this epic flood and like people died and there was the whole thing. There were massive amounts of water coming off the Himalayas. And this region is the gateway to lots of the rivers, the Ganges River, these other epic rivers in India. And China is claiming water rights. So India and China hate each other. And they have beef. And, Pakistan they had these whatever so-called terrorists. We don't know who's responsible, but they came in and just killed 24 people. And so India went in and said, so we're going to bomb the shit out of you. They've had 3.5 wars, and India's won all 3.5 wars because there's 1.5 billion Indians and only 200 million Pakistanis, right? But Pakistan has this ally in China, but, China's taking it on the fucking chin because of the whole Trump thing with the trade war. But the issue is that they both have nuclear weapons. And so, like, this is, going to go south, like, really quickly. I mean, India's going to kick Pakistan's ass if there's a war because they have a better military, they have more money, they're a bigger country, and with more assets and resources. And they have a relationship with Russia. India does. So you have China backing Pakistan. They have an alliance in Russia and India. And so it's a very, like, if Pakistan just goes, like, nuclear, and they said they're not taking off the table first strike, that they'll do first strike if they need to. And so, maybe there's nothing that happens here, but, like, there's just all this potential for nuclear war, like destabilizing World War III kind of shit that's could happen. It doesn't have to come from America. And, of course, Trump being so destabilized. And so let's go back to the report here.
A Pakistani military spokesperson says the country will respond to those attacks, adding that at least 3 people have been killed in the Indian strikes. This comes after gunmen killed 26 people in Indian-administered Kashmir last month. India blamed Pakistan for those attacks. Nick Robertson is live now in
Nick Robinson?
Islamabad, and it's worth reminding our viewers that these are 2 nuclear-armed nations that have fired at each other before. Tell us.
So I've watched this. I turned on the news. My wife had actually sent me a thing, but I hadn't seen it yet. I was working on something, and earlier, and then I turned on the news, and this was breaking with Aaron Burnett, and then later, my wife and I watched Anderson Cooper. Like, he made a bunch of mistakes. He's so weird. I was hoping that they would post that one, but I guess they didn't because he failed so bad. So they posted this one. And all 3 of these CNN people said multiple times, and when they interviewed people, remember, these are 2 nuclear powers. And they pointed out all these things. So, they're really emphasizing this, right? I mean, I don't want to say they're setting up for a planned nuclear war here, but it seems highly suspicious that they keep, either they're trying to scare the shit out of everybody, which is, yeah, that's true, or they're, like, setting the stage for nuclear war.
Tell us what the situation is now and concerns about escalation now.
There's a real concern about escalation. Pakistan vowed that if India attacked, that they would respond. That was part of their military doctrine. They believe, and I've been speaking over the past few days with very senior security officials here, and they believe that this incident inside Indian-controlled Kashmir...
Some of the sounds of India, they're great behind there. The crows in India make this incredible sound. I think it's not just India, that area out there. The crows make a different kind of a sound than they make here.
26 civilians were killed that India blamed on Pakistan, that Pakistan denied. They believe that this had now come, the relations with India had now come to a defining moment where Pakistan needs to take a definitive stand, because India has threatened to cut off water supplies coming down 3 major rivers. Vital, existential security officials describe the water from those rivers. So this is the sort of context.
Okay, so I'm going to go with Trump and the Canadian Prime Minister in a moment. This just happens to be first, so I'm doing this one first. For no reason. It's just where they're placed on my toolbar.
Breaking news coming off Capitol Hill this hour. CNN sitting down exclusively with Senator John Fetterman. He is pushing back on recent questions that have been raised about his fitness to serve in office now and into the future. CNN chief congressional correspondent Manu Raju joins us now, and he sat down with the senator just a few moments ago. Manu, tell us what you heard from Senator Fetterman.
He's pushing back at these allegations that were detailed on the record by his former chief of staff, Adam Gentleson, who had raised concerns that John Fetterman, who was public about his battles with depression last year, who had checked himself into Walter Reed Hospital for 6 weeks, was no longer following the medical regimen that was laid out by his doctors in the aftermath of his treatment for clinical depression. And when I asked him about the concerns about erratic and reckless behavior detailed in that New York Magazine story, he pushed back.
And now it's just a disgruntled group of people, and there's only one there, so...
Okay, so there's a disgruntled group of people that's only one person? Like, you're fucked in the head, bro. You can't speak. You can't articulate shit. Let's go back to it here.
Now it's just a disgruntled group of people, and there's only one there, so that's the same thing. There's no new news involved for this.
That's the same thing? There's no new news. It's all new news, right? And so we've seen this guy basically not be able to function as an adult. Like, not even like, I mean, he can't have conversations. He can't understand what people are saying to him, and he can't articulate what he's thinking. His thought process is fucked, right? Worse than Joe Biden's debate performance. It's a constant with this guy because he had a stroke and he got depressed, and he was already depressed, and he had depressive tendencies, and he couldn't do his job, and he was locked up in a mental institution. And another senator, according to this report, came to visit him, and this was from this guy, right? This is from the senator or whatever it was. I forgot the guy's name. It's in my other video, and he's trying to talk to this guy, checking out who he is. And Fetterman's catatonic, and he's just making figure eight signs with his finger, and
disgruntled group of people, and there's only one there, so that's the same thing. There's no new news involved for this.
The individual is a former chief of staff who has said that he's concerned about your well-being, which is why he went public. What do you say to someone like him who's concerned about?
It would just, aside from his inarticulation, look at his fucking droopy dog face. Look at this guy. Would you think this guy's a fucking senator? Like, if you walked into this guy's office and you never heard of, you've heard of John Fetterman, you never met him. You're expecting a senator, and you see this guy sitting there in his fucking hoodie, looking depressed, and you're like, did some ogre eat the senator? Like, what the fuck happened here, right? Like,
He says he's concerned about your personal well-being.
It's like, no, he's had a weird grudge, and he has threatened to do this for quite a while. And if you're really concerned about someone, you could say, hey, let's sit down, can we talk? It's not like going to the media, and that's why somebody that has an agenda, it's like a hit piece.
So you've been.
It's like a hit piece. I mean, the way they're talking is you're mentally incompetent, which, you checked yourself into a hospital because you're mentally incompetent. We all saw his disastrous performance. Good night, everybody. I showed you that in my last video about this guy, right? But we've all seen it. Like, he went on The View and these other places and had to bring a tablet with him. He couldn't do an interview. Joe Rogan had to ask him the same question like 3 or 4 times in a row. Like, simple questions because he couldn't understand. And then he would, oftentimes his answers were just babbling incoherently. And so that should be enough. And now people on the inside, whistleblowers, are saying, this guy's mentally incompetent, which we all knew he was mentally incompetent, right? He had a stroke, he's depressed, he was suicidal, and he couldn't do his job, and then he came out and he still couldn't do his job. And there's no accountability. I don't know what the Democratic Party's doing here other than they're scared of losing another seat. Why they haven't tried to get rid of this guy in the first place. But, like, you can't get rid of these guys. Like, they're senile motherfuckers, and as long as they're elected, you can't get rid of them. Like we saw this with Dianne Feinstein. Her seat isn't going to be taken by a Republican. She's in California. They're assured that Dianne Feinstein's seat, which is now, I assume, another Democrat, because these seats are, there's no losing them, right? People like that. Fetterman's in a swing state, and they're going to have a runoff, which would be an interesting election, because how is Pennsylvania feeling about Trump right now? I bet they'd get another Democrat in there. There would be a good way to send a message that the Pennsylvania that Trump won and that Fetterman's seat would be taken by a Democrat, would be, because he's a Democrat as well, he'd be replaced by a Democrat. in an election right now. It would send a message to the Republican Party that fucking people aren't digging Trump's bullshit, right? But, there's no account. This guy should not be doing any job. Like, never mind a senator. And it's not some disgruntled employee, right? He's talking about like real allegations of a guy who's not capable of doing these the job. And it's his chief of staff. It's the guy who's in charge of this. You can't get any more inside than that. And so everything he's saying, are you suing this guy and saying that he's giving you, he's slandering you, he's making shit up? No. It's a disgruntled employee. It's a bunch of disgruntled employees. It's only really one individual.
Been public about your struggles with depression, and you had a prescription regimen of drugs to take in the aftermath of your...
Yeah, those drugs are not fucking, we all know about the side effects of depressive drugs that often create suicidal ideation. There's 200 different pharmaceutical drugs that either cause depression or suicidal ideation, and many of those are antidepressants. Sometimes they have the opposite effect. And either way, they cloud your judgment. They're things that mess around with your perception of reality, right? These are, they're not something that enhances your abilities. They're things that detract from them. And so, just the fact he's taking all these drugs is a big deal. Like this guy's, he's got real fucking problems, bro.
Time. Have you been keeping up with that, taking your medication?
I want to,
I mean, you're talking about this guy who's one of the most prominent senators because, if you know 5 senators' names, he's like one of them, right? Like he's just out there. He's very, his election with Dr. Oz was very public. It was a big election, in terms of the Senate, holding the Senate for the Democrats and all that. Remember, all that shit that happened. And he was out there with, front and center. People know this guy more than they know the other 200 senators, right? He's probably the 10 most well-known senators. He's probably one of the top 5. And so, just the way he looks and all these things, the guy's on fucking medication, right? Are you taking your medication? Okay, good. I'm sure you can do a good job. Taking those kind of medications means that if you don't take the medications, you can't function. But if you do take the medications, you don't function as well as other people, but just better than you do normally. That's not a prescription for success, right? Are you on your medication, Johnny?
My doctors are like, John is great, and I am on all of the plan that it's always been, and it's incredibly invasive. And why are people talking about anyone's personal medical things? It's that,
I don't know, because you're a fucking senator. And you had a fucking stroke, and you were suicidal, and you're like making fucking decisions that are kind of important, and it's a kind of a stressful job, and kind of an important job. I mean, it's not really an important job; it's all fucking joke, because he's just he's handled or whatever way. But like it's kind of important. Why are you even talking about this? Like it's American people are your boss, and your voters. They want to know if you're mentally functioning okay, right?
I think most people would agree that's really, really invasive.
No, it's not invasive, bro.
Explain what happened with those driving incidents. There was a reckless driving incident last year, and there was something in the concern in that article about you driving, getting behind the wheel.
No, it's like there's no news. There's no news on those things. It wasn't an accident.
You fully plan to serve your full term here in the Senate.
Come on, of course. That's obviously, everybody understands I was treated for depression.
He wouldn't say if he would run for re-election in 2028, said it's too early for that. He is, though, Casey, getting support from Democrats.
2028. Jesus Christ, 2028. I mean, think about that. Like, he's good till 2028. Like, that's 3 more years. That's when, Trump is going to run for re-election. I thought he was elected. I thought he was in between. Did he get 6 years? Did they get 6 years for the Senate? They must get 6 years. And so, holy shit, this guy's in there for 6 years. He started off with not being able to show up because he's in a mental institution and suicidal. And he's got another 5.5 years after that, like 5 years and 8 months. And And I'm here for it. Don't quit, Johnny.
Democrats and Republican senators alike here on the Hill. But when I put the question about that Fetterman had raised and criticism to his former chief of staff, Adam Gentleson, he told me, quote, "I stand by what I said, and I hope he gets the help he needs." Casey.
All right. Monty.
One source hit piece.
Stick around. We're going to open this conversation up to the panel. And Xochitl Hinojosa, let me put this to you as the Democrat at the table.
There's the one Democrat at a CNN table.
Because, John Fetterman.
The rest of these guys are Republicans.
was considered a rising star in the party. He won.
That tells you everything you know about the Democrats. Fetterman's considered a rising star.
The Senate race in Pennsylvania with a profile that was in some ways very Trumpian, but on the left side, right? I mean, I spent a lot of time covering him before this happened. I think anyone who knew him before and knows him now knows that he's a different man.
Come on, he's fucked in the head. Just say it. He's fucked in the head now. Like, he's fucked in the head. Like, he used to not be fucked in the head, but now he's fucked in the head. But he was not great before. He's always been weird, lurching, not somebody you would think, and I don't care. Like, I like different. Different's great. It's entertaining. I don't like just these people who read the news and they all have the same fucking accent. And they all have the same way of acting, all that bullshit, fake mannequin shit, right? I like different. But Fetterman was like a little bit too much different to do the job. I mean, he's not capable. He's not Senate material. He's not smart. He wasn't smart before, but he's definitely impaired after his stroke. And it's the stress of the job that he's not qualified for. I mean, he swore in and immediately imploded to where they had to check him into a mental institution where he was suicidal. He was there for 6 weeks. And he's supposed to be doing his job. Like, it's like you get hired for a job. I mean, what situation you get hired for a job and you have a mental breakdown, you're suicidal, and then they welcome you back, right? Like, you have to be a superstar, some kind of like celebrity actor, somebody like this, where there's this kind of volatility. But a job where you're supposed to be like a civil servant and making, decisions that affect millions of people, the whole country at times, and you're voting on things, and you're, running, like he's running some of the, like he's the chair of some of these fucking like committees and shit, right? He's on these committees, and again, the government's a joke, and these senators are a joke, and they're all owned, and it's all fucking bullshit. But in reality, in terms of not reality, but in perception, what this is all about is perception. You want to believe that these guys at least can fucking complete a thought in a sentence, can understand shit without looking at a tablet to translate it. But he had, audio processing issues. And so you show up impaired to your job, and it's like, and then you don't even dress like everybody fucking else, right? Which, again, I don't have a problem with, but, you can't do that. So the guy's a fucking mess. And these guys have covered him for years, and now it's like, oh, wow, we're finally recognized what we saw right in front of us. I mean, there's this guy, whoever was from Ohio, this senator. Don't tell me, don't care, don't need to know, like I said. I could go look it up. But he was referenced in this article that he went to meet with a guy, and he's catatonic, he's making these figure eights. I mean, this is, that should have been it right there. That should have been like fucking news. The guy should have came out and said, this guy can't do it. But they were worried about losing the seat because, they only won by a little bit for that fucking moron, that Dr. Oz guy who's now working for Trump anyway, who's a piece of shit. And, like, can't even beat a guy who's fucking fucked in the head, right?
This has been a really difficult situation. What do you think is the right thing for Senator Fetterman to be doing right now?
To take care of himself. I think that anyone suffering depression in any instance, it's hard to keep up with school, keep up with a job, to be U.S. Senator and suffer from depression. I can only imagine what him and his family are going through. And I know...
Jesus Christ. He needs to step the fuck down. Who gives a shit about him? Like, there's a bigger things at stake. We're at the fucking verge of World War III. You guys see what Trump's doing to the country? This guy's a fucking, distraction in like this big fucking Gru-looking lurch, George the Animal Steel-looking motherfucker. This ogre. That's sitting up there in his sweatshirt, fucking suicidal and depressed and inarticulate. And, when people talk to him, he's like the Charlie Brown adults. Wah, 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 wah. That's what he said he heard. He can't understand words when you talk to him. He needs fucking captions for his native language. He needs fucking closed captions for his native language. Like, think about that shit. Like, imagine if you're talking to somebody and you have to look down at a tablet to tell you what the person just said. You have to read it because you have audio processing issues where your ears and your perception doesn't work. Even your eyes reading the person's lips. Your whole your senses are there's a communication thing that happens when you're looking at people. You're reading their body language and you're hearing their words, and he can't do any of that shit. Like, he's got to look at a tablet, and he only sort of half gets it, and then he goes to speak, and he fucking destroys the American the English language because he can't like fucking understand what's going on, right? Like, he has processing issues both in speaking and in hearing. Like, that's like 90% of his shitty fucking bullshit Senate job. Like, just say he needs to step down, right? You guys should have said that, when he came out and he was in the debate. He said, "Good night, everybody." Like, that's how he opened up his debate performance. It was like hilarious, but it was even funnier when he beat the guy. Like, how bad does Dr. Oz suck?
Oh, Adam Gentleson. I served with him in the Senate. We were friends, and he is someone who, serves his principles and is loyal. And he's only sounding the alarm because he believes that the public needs to know that there is something there, that he's doing a disservice not only to his constituents but to himself.
We should all know by just looking at the motherfucker. Like, how can you not look at this guy and say, yeah, that guy should not be senator? I've been talking about this forever, and it's so obvious that, it's just these guys are like play this fucking game where it has to go, like some insider has to tell you whatever you've been seeing for, ever since the debate. He wasn't great before. He's a weird-looking fucking guy. Weird tattoos, depressed, some guy listens to heavy metal fucking music, this kind of shit, right? Like, just this weird headbanger guy. He's not smart. He doesn't have, like, a lot of talents, which I guess doesn't really matter in the Senate. Sure, okay, fuck, they all suck, right? All right, fine. But this guy was, he's impaired. He had a stroke. Like, most times you have a stroke, you don't do your job. Especially a new job that's really stressful. He's got this wife that's like a witch. The whole thing's weird.
And I think he fears for his well-being. And so this entire reporting is extremely devastating, but I think that he really needs to think about what is best for him and his family at this point.
Yeah.
No, this isn't going to come down to him. He has to be forced the fuck out. And, he can just say no. Like, we saw what happened with, what's that guy? The guy always called it the human turtle. That guy, the senator from Kentucky, who just quit, right? And so, I see the guy's face, but whatever. I'm losing. I'm Fetterman. and so, there's all these people. Dianne Feinstein, remember they rolled her out and her eyes were all fucked up. Like, one of her eyes was swollen. It looked like she was like a fucking witch. And she came in and said, yay, to a vote. Like, they rolled her out in a wheelchair, and she was, basically in a hospital bed. And she served another, 6 months. There's been all these people who have been impaired mentally, and there was that guy, the senator from Kentucky, Mitch McConnell, and he was going catatonic. He was just sitting there like a turtle with his fucking face and couldn't answer questions, remember? And for 2 years, he still was senator after that. Like, it happens with age all the time. And they just won't quit. Like, and they're not even doing their job. But they go in and their handlers tell them what to do and what to vote for. We know with Joe Biden, he was signing things and didn't know what he was doing. And so there's no way of getting rid of him. Like, this cognitive testing should actually be a thing. Like, especially for the older people, but like someone with Fetterman, if they can't pass a cognitive test, well, how the fuck are they going to do their job? Like, you have to be sharp. You expect at least sharp fucking people in here. And you say, all right, we're going to have a special runoff election. And it would make the Democratic Party, the Republican parties, make sure that they wouldn't run a guy who's going to fucking is at the end of his rope. Like, this should be, this is across the board. You can say it's the same thing with Trump, right? Extensive cognitive testing. Like, you need to do that. You need for a driver's license as you get older. Once in a while they have some old person who plows through a fucking bunch of people sitting on some sidewalk cafe or some shit. Like, it happens a lot. where old people are not capable of driving. You know, it's going to happen to me. Your eyesight starts to go, and your ability to understand the road, and you know, you're just not mentally as sharp. You just, you know, and it's harder to drive at night. Those are like first, you know, it's hard to see at night and things like this, and you know, all these things. And so, there's a physical breakdown, and this guy is the fucking poster child for.
I do think it is worth noting, you know, Adam Gentleson worked for many years. For our viewers who may not understand how this works, he's been in the Capitol Hill ecosystem for a long, long time. He worked for Senator Harry Reid when he was the majority leader in the Senate. He is someone who usually is very discreet.
He's a fucking handler, right? And they put him on this guy. They put him on this guy because we never even heard of this Gentleson. I never heard his name before until he wrote this article. They put him on this guy as a handler. And the guy wouldn't respond because he's fucking, you know, he's really impaired. And he's got a weird wife and a probably weird inner circle. He's not responding. You know, he was too cozy with Trump. And he went off too much on the Palestinian people. And he was pissing off the liberals who used to support him because he went off on Palestine. He gave over-the-top support for Israel. And so, you know, now they're turning on the guy. Because he's not listening, right? He's not getting it because he can't get it. You know, they rolled this guy out, this fucking mentally impaired fuck, and it's like, well, at some point we're gonna have to jettison the guy, and now they're like doing it to him because he's not responding to his handler.
Were you surprised that this came out in public? And
Yeah.
what do you think it says?
Look, I was surprised. I've become friends with John Fetterman, and I'll tell you, the public John Fetterman I knew before I met him, you know, he had all the, well, this is the guy that doesn't wear a suit and everything else. As I've gotten to know him, he's one of the most genuine people I've ever met, and I mean.
Oh, Jesus Christ, bro! Fucking because when you're disingenuous yourself, how can you judge authenticity or genuineness?
Like there is no politician-ness in him, and I think he wears.
Yeah, but so that's not the issue, right? The issue is that he's fucked in the head, right? You just say, yeah, you know, I talked to him. He's a really nice guy. I liked him, very genuine. But he's genuinely fucked in the head.
His emotions on his sleeve, right? And so any of us, when I was in Congress, there were days I didn't want to go meet with people. I would have wanted to just sit at my desk. But I
make fucking figure eight signals, signs in the air as I stared catatonically at the wall and contemplated my own death. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, bro? This isn't the same thing. Let's make it about you. This is about you. He didn't. I don't. You know. It's about, you know, me. I do those things.
Wear my emotions as much on my sleeves. I think he's so genuine. Any decision to leave.
Look at this. Look at this fucking power couple here.
Senate. Any decision on the treatment for depression. It's his decision. He's been very open about it as well. I think this was kind of an unfair attack on him. Now, granted, when you're a public figure.
Oh my God! Fucking listen to this motherfucker. You saw what he's been doing. You didn't see the interview with The View? Like, come on. You're saying this is okay? This is fucking the standard that the American people should accept? This fucking idiocracy guy? Let's make him they're talking about this motherfucker running for president. I mean, even, you know, all this stuff. Look, he's swearing in. Look at this fucking guy. He's going to walk out of here straight into a mental institution. He's swearing in here with Kamala. And it was weird. People watched this. And right after that, he goes into a mental institution for fucking, you know, for depression and suicidal ideation.
You're a public figure. Everything's kind of fair game. But I'll tell you, the John Fetterman I know is somebody that just, you're really not going to meet a more genuine person. And
just so genuine. Like, he's such a fucking You know who's genuine? Homeless people. They're pretty fucking genuine. Go talk to one, right? I mean, like, let's make them senators. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
About is that this is an attack against him because he's been so outspoken against, for instance, some of the protests and things like that, and he's ticked off a lot of Dems. I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm just saying I hope that's not the case.
He certainly did have some.
Yeah, because there's no evidence this guy's fucked in the head. I have seen zero fucked in the head evidence on this guy.
Staff in his office who were angry about that, and there was turnover because of that. I'm not sure that Adam is in that category. What do you think, Kristen?
Yeah, I also wonder to what extent this is all happening in the backdrop of this real reckoning within the Democratic Party about the extent to which President Joe Biden, when he was president, was his condition a challenge, and was that...
Oh my God, yes, of course it is. They're both fucked in the head. Joe Biden had fucking Parkinson's, and you roll the guy out there. I don't know. Maybe this has to do with Joe Biden's bad performance and Trump. Yeah, these guys are fucked in the head. Like, American people can look at people, some of us. I hope it's more than just us. Like, I think the majority of people can look at Fetterman and Joe Biden and now Trump and say, oh, yeah, these guys are fucked in the head. Like, the shit that they say and the things that they do and the way that they behave, they're deteriorating and they don't really have it. It's like a pitcher. The fucking coach comes out to the mound and says, hey, you don't have it. Pitchers, like, they're tired, their arm, it's not, they're getting fucking rung up by the opposing batters, and the coach comes out and replaces the pitcher. You don't have it, like, you just don't have it tonight, or whatever. Or you pitched a good game, but you're wearing down. Like, you can watch a pitcher, you're like, all right, this guy's got to be yanked. How many people watch a baseball game and say, they got to pull that fucking pitcher? He's getting fucking rung up, like he can't fucking pitch anymore. Like, he's, whatever's happening. He's physically worn down, he's tired, his arm fucking hurts, he's lost his confidence, whatever. He's lost control of the ball, he's walking batters, whatever it is, right? You know when a coach is going to pull the fucking pitcher. You don't need the announcers to tell you. And this guy's just throwing fucking pitches. This guy's a fucking senator. You don't have it. Like, fucking, you do one of these performances, and it's like, oh, well, somebody go talk to him, kind of convince the guy maybe he should step down. No, there should be an apparatus. You're like, give this guy a cognitive fucking test, right? We can all see he's fucked in the head. Let's get some scientific, confirmation and get him the fuck out of here, right? He's fucked in the head. Take a fucked in the head test. Yeah, it confirmed yes. It's been the results of the tests are that you're fucked in the head and you can't do your job. And we gotta get the fuck out of here, right? You probably should be locked up somewhere. Like, maybe like you could, I don't know, like maybe you could be a bagger or a greeter at Walmart. But other than that, I don't think there's much jobs that you can do. Like, you're fucked in the head enough where you could be one of those, like, old people at a Walmart that greet you when you come in. Hey, how are you doing? Okay, good, Grandpa, thanks. That's what you could do. Joe Biden, the same thing. But, for the most of the rest of the job, you're too much fucked in the head to do those jobs.
Being concealed from the public. And I think as Democrats go through this very public reckoning about what did we know and when did we know it and when should that have been exposed, I do think that is now.
I don't know, the debate where he said, good night, everybody, as he opens the thing, maybe that should have been it.
Leading to follow-on stories perhaps about others.
What do you think is the bar, Mark, for any politician's ability? What do they owe?
Well, they should be able to talk and listen. They should be able to listen to somebody else without an apparatus, and they should be able to speak. When someone's speaking their native language, they shouldn't need subtitles. And when they're giving a sentence, they should be able to articulate something that makes fucking sense, that actually gets to the point. There's not multiple fucking errors and weird shit where you need something to interpret what the person's saying. So they should be able to express themselves verbally and also listen to other people's verbal fucking communications. If they can't do that, then they're fucked in the head and they can't do the job.
The people that they represent in terms of being truthful about their own capacity.
I don't think there's much privacy once you're a public official, but I agree with Kristen. I feel like for John Fetterman, he's been pretty open about his challenges in mental health. He's been transparent with his constituents. I think it's a much bigger danger, the mental decline that was covered up in the last administration, and as well, candidly, in some members in the House and the Senate who have stayed in those positions long past a healthy perspective in their age in which they can no longer function. And that's sort of covered up many times. This has been far more transparent than many of those issues.
It's not transparent. Just because he says depressed, this isn't depressing. He has fucking audio processing issues, motherfucker. Yeah, everything you just said is things that I said. There's been senators and all these people that have been kept around too long. Strom Thurmond, I mean, these guys are just fucking... They're vegetables. They're like 90 years old. They're fucking can't even think anymore. They can't even walk. They're wheelchairing them in. And they're not able to function, but they have positions of power. Over time, if you serve for a long time, you're head of committees. Mitch McConnell was the head of the Republican senators forever. Like, he'd been there so fucking long. And so they want to give up that power. Now they bring somebody else in from Kentucky to replace, Mitch McConnell. And, I think it's probably a Republican, but even worse, it could be a Democrat, right? So for them. And so they get rid of the guy, and he comes in, and the new guy has no power. He has no seniority. He's on no committees. And so the state of Kentucky suffers because Mitch McConnell was, bringing in fucking bling and shit for the state because of his power. He could, change things, like in terms of, where they have where they build a military base or whatever, these different committees he charges, right? So if you have a senator who's been there a long time and has some seniority, even from some little podunk state like Rhode Island, they can guarantee you that you guys get more resources and assets. You bring a freshman guy in, a young guy or woman or whatever it is, and they have to work their way up. So that's why they keep these motherfuckers around, and long after they should have been retired.
That we still face in the House and Senate.
Yeah, really interesting. Manu Raju, you said, you noted that he's gotten a lot of support from both Republican and Democratic senators. I will say, in my sort of recent reporting and talking to my sources on the Hill, you do get the sense that Fetterman very much operates and perhaps feels like he is a man alone, like he is standing alone, especially in the Democratic Party.
Yeah, it's funny, like when you can't understand what other people are saying and you can't express yourself verbally, you feel alone. Like, it's funny how that works out like that. When you can't communicate with other people, it's like you're in a place where everyone speaks your native tongue, but you no longer understand it, and you're walking around. It's like being in a foreign country where no one understands what you're saying, and they can't understand what you're saying, and you're like, wow, that makes me feel lonely. Of course it does. He's fucked in the head, right? People who are fucked in the head always feel lonely.
And I'm not saying that in the context of this, this story that came out by Ben Terris that then you spoke to him about, but rather in the context of some of these issues, the government shutdown, for example, where, of course, the party itself really, there's huge backlash against Chuck Schumer, and John Fetterman was one of the loudest voices out there saying, this is ridiculous. Why would we shut the government down? Very much at odds with the base of the party. I mean, how much do you think these two things are interacting?
Yeah, I mean, look, during that time of the government shutdown fight, John Fetterman stopped going to the Democratic lunches. He had been sort of on an island, as you say, on that issue. He was publicly out there calling against a shutdown. That was before Chuck Schumer ultimately aligned with him on that case, and he grew very frustrated with his party. He's also been frustrated with his party on issues involving Israel as well, and that came up in our interview when I talked to him about that.
Yeah, we know that. See, that's stuff that I said. So, your guys are minimizing the fucked in the head part, right? You guys understand, like, the central element of this thing is the guy can't speak and he can't listen. And he's not smart other than that, right? It's not like he's some, genius level. He's probably got this, he's average IQ. And when you hear him speak, like, he became a mayor that somehow became a lieutenant governor in a contested state. He, stood up to Trump's people because he was a Democrat. Everyone looked at him like, whatever. He's a yinzer, which is a whole fucking thing in Pittsburgh and in Pennsylvania. These people who are out there. It's a weird fucking state. And somehow he became a popular figure. And they said, let's run this fucking guy for Senate. He didn't look like a senator. And then he has a fucking stroke. He's not smart. He's not great. He's not polished. He's weird. He already suffered from depression. He married some kind of foreign witch that God knows what the fuck's going on with her. And he gets run for Senate. And he's running against Dr. Oz, who's like a real piece of shit that nobody likes. He has a fucking stroke, right? So he's not great coming into it. Like he's bare minimum, like someone who's just passable, right? He doesn't have the intelligence level of a higher person, like someone who's like better than other people in terms of academics or perception or, being able to charismatic like Trump, right? He doesn't have some quality other than he looks fucking different and weird. And people from Pittsburgh, yeah, let's send a fucking guy that like some fucking bozo that's on my softball team or shit. Let's send some guy who's a, factory worker up to the Senate and teach them some kind of fucking elitist some fucking lessons, right? And so they run this guy. He's barely able to function as it is on his whatever jobs he was doing beforehand. And then he has a fucking stroke, and he's really fucked in the head after that. And all these issues come out. And the depression also came from success because he didn't feel like he belonged because he fucking didn't. He didn't think he could do the job. He had a fucking panic attack. He swears in. He's going, oh, my God, they made me a senator. He feels overwhelmed. Like that's what he talked about. He felt overwhelmed because he knew deep down that he wasn't able to do this kind of job, which involves a lot of interviews and a lot of talking and a lot of listening and a lot of fucking understanding and a lot of performance and a lot of bullshit political shit. He wants to be his own man and dress like he wants to dress and all that fucking bullshit like that, right? And so, this is what happens. It's amazing that they're not talking about how fucked in the head he's been for so long. He has audio processing issues, right? Even that other clown said it.
There have been some allegations that perhaps some of his behavior was tied to that, tied to his positions, such as on Israel. He said that there's absolutely nothing to do with that at all. But there's no question about it. He is someone who has staked out a position that is at odds with much of his.
Oh my God, you guys, how bad you have to suck. I mean, you guys can finally just say, all right, we've known all along he's fucked in the head. And now it's coming out for whatever reason. The Democrats have turned on him, whatever the fucking political bullshit reason behind this thing. He's fucked in the head. What do you guys think about it? I don't know. He's fucked in the head. You guys see it, right? Yeah, I see it. We all see it. We all knew it for a while. It's like Emperor has no clothes thing. The Emperor is fucked in the head. Oh, yeah, that guy, he's fucked in the head. He's a good guy. He's pretty genuine. He's pretty sincere, but he's fucked in the head. And he shouldn't be senator. So I just looked it up, and I knew this from my high school or elementary school civics classes or whatever. But a senator serves 6-year terms, and the House of Representatives serve 2-year terms. So the House of Representatives comes up every 2 years. That's where you have the number of House state as based in your population. So big population states like California and New York, these other big population states, Texas and Florida, they have a lot of members of the House of Representatives, but they all have 2 senators. So the senators are more powerful, branch of the legislative branch of the government. And so they elected this guy for 6 fucking years. And he's going out when Trump goes out. And so he's got another, almost 4 years left. He's been a mess the first 2 years, right? And they can't fucking get rid of him. And, it's all these things. So then this happened here.
Thank you for your hospitality and above all for your leadership. You're a transformational president, focus on the economy with a relentless focus on the American worker, securing your borders, providing.
So this is 22 minutes long. I'm not going to get through this. At some point, this guy's going to say, Canada's not for sale. Let's watch this other bullshit. But once I reach that point, this thing's done unless it gets really interesting. This guy's trying to stand up for Canada. He's a piece of shit. Like the rest of them.
Ending the scourge of fentanyl and other opioids, and securing the world. And I've been elected with my colleagues here, with the help of my colleagues here. I'm going to spread the credit.
It's Canada, bro. Nobody's impressed.
To transform Canada with
beautiful place, Canada. I'm not shitting on Canadians, nice people. I have no issues with Canadians, but just get to the fucking point. This guy he's trying to pluck your country. He's trying to fucking annex your country. And I know you have to go through this bullshit pleasantries, but come on, bro.
Similar focus on the economy, securing our borders, again on fentanyl. Much greater focus on defense and security, securing the Arctic and developing the Arctic. And the history of Canada and the U.S. is we're stronger when we work together, and there's many opportunities to work together. And I look forward to, addressing some of those issues that we have, but also finding those areas of mutual cooperation so we can move forward.
That's great. Very nice. Thank you very much. It's a very nice statement. I have a lot of respect for this man, and I watched him come up, in a sense, through the ranks when he wasn't given.
Did you watch him, Trump? Did you really fucking watch Canadian politics? You're watching this guy come up through the ranks. How long have you even known this guy's name? What the fuck are you talking about, bro? You're fucked in the head. They're all fucked in.
Of a chance, and he ran a really great campaign. He did a really great debate. I think the debate was very helpful.
The one where he shit all over America and said we're going to he took a hard line against America.
I was going to raise my hand. I don't know if that's good or bad. I shouldn't say that. That might hurt you. But no, he ran a really great election, I thought. And yeah, something could happen. Something could happen. Yeah, please.
What's the top concession you want out of Canada? The top concession you want out of Canada?
Concession?
Yes.
Friendship.
But that's not a concession.
No, we're going to be friends.
Concession, and you stop concession as friendship. Do you know what the word concession means? Do you need Fetterman's little tablet? You don't understand the English? You need subtitles. That's not what concession means. It means that you're going to give, some kind of concession on the tariffs or some shit. That some of the stuff, you're going to cut back. You're going to get rid of some of the tariffs, right? You're going to withdraw some. You're going to go from 25% down to 10% or something. That's a concession. Friendship. I don't know. Friendship? Fucking friendship.
Friends with Canada. Regardless of anything, we're going to be friends with Canada.
No, we're not. They're like, fuck you, America, right now. And you're like, fuck you, Canada. Like, you're not friends.
Canada is a very special place to me. I know so many people that live in Canada.
Do you? You know lots of Canadians? Let's name them. What's their names?
My parents had relatives that lived in Canada, my mother in particular. And
but my dad in particular too. No, in particular. What the fuck are you talking about? Who are the relatives?
No, I love Canada. I have a lot of respect for the Canadians. Wayne Gretzky.
Name 3 other Canadians.
The great one. You happen to have a very, very good hockey player right here on the Capitals, who I have a lot of. He is a big, tough cookie too. Just broke the record, and he's a great guy. And
you don't know his name though, right, bro?
We had the team here, and I got to know a lot of the players. But now Canada is a very special place. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, Mr. Prime Minister, I'd like to get your response to this too. Mr. President, you have said
Trump, I love Canada and want friendship with them. Holy shit.
that Canada should become the 51st state.
Yeah. No. Well, I still believe that, but it takes 2 to tango, right? But no, I do. I mean, I believe it would be.
It's got to be coming here, so here it is.
A massive tax cut for the Canadian citizens. You get free military, you get tremendous medical cares and other things. There would be a lot of advantages, but it would be a massive tax cut. And it's also a beautiful, as a real estate developer, I'm a real estate developer at heart. When you get rid of that artificially drawn line, somebody drew that line many years ago with like a ruler, just a straight line right
what are you talking about, bro? It's 2 different countries.
Across the top of the country. When you look at that beautiful formation when it's together, I'm a very artistic person, but when I looked at that beauty, I said that's the way it was meant to be. But I do feel that it's much better for Canada, but we're not going to be discussing that unless somebody wants to discuss it. I think that
no, he doesn't want to discuss it.
There are tremendous benefits to the Canadian citizens, tremendously lower taxes, free military, which honestly we give you essentially anyway because we're protecting.
So then why would they go do that?
In Canada, if you ever had a problem, but I think it would really be a wonderful marriage because it's 2 places that get along very well. They like each other a lot.
Well, if I may, as you know from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale.
That's true.
We're sitting in one right now, Buckingham Palace that you visited as well.
That's true.
And having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign last several months, it's not for sale, won't be for sale ever. But
ever? Forever, ever? Like there'll be a time when Canada isn't going to be called Canada and America's not going to be called America. These continents might not even be the way they are now. They could be continental shifts. Shit falls into the ocean. Tectonic plates move. And, there won't be language changes. There's people that were here that didn't speak English years and years ago. Different people that weren't, Caucasian, white people. The things shift, change. They're always changing. And so, like Canada's saying it's never for sale. It's totally for sale, right? Right now, England owns it because the Queen can shut down Parliament anytime she wants. They're a part of the British Commonwealth. So it's not like, I'm not proposing that Canada becomes the 51st state because, I don't give a shit. And they're all fucked in the head. And so I'm just going to run with that theme for a while because it's true. But look at him. Trump's a little disappointed. Oh, Canada? And, but this idea that's never for sale, you're not even independent. The Queen can go in and say, I'm suspending Parliament. The King now. It used to be the Queen. The Queen showed up in Canada and there was all these native kids, and she just like took like 10 of them. They disappeared, and people were around and saw it and said, yeah, the Queen just took 10 Native American kids, like, years and years. Again, that's a little bit, not totally factual. I believe it, but whatever. But she has the power to come. The king now, King fucking Chuck or whatever his name is, Charlie, can come in any time he wants and just suspend Parliament, like they're part of the British Commonwealth. So it isn't like they're totally independent.
The opportunity is in the partnership and what we can build together. We have done that in the past, and part of that, as the president just said, is with respect to our own security. And my government is committed for a step change in our investment in Canadian security and our partnership, and I'll say this as well, that the president has revitalized international security, revitalized NATO, and us playing our full weight in NATO, and that will be part of it.
And they have.
Jesus Christ, dude, you talk tough when you were in Canada, and you're basically licking his fucking scrotum like the rest of these people. You're talking about how great he is, right? He's coming in like, I thought you were going to be like a tough guy. The Canadians were looking to stand up to this guy. With respect, we're not for sale. Because I talked to people in Canada, and I didn't know whether we were for sale or not. But when I was campaigning, they said, "Hey, we're not for sale, but we will pay more for NATO, and we participate more. We're willing to fucking bend over." Jesus Christ, you guys! This is.
They have. I must say, Canada is stepping up the military participation because. Mark knew, they were low, and now they're stepping it up, and that's a very important thing. But never say never. Never say never.
What would it take to get the tariffs off of Canada?
Well, we'll be talking about different things. Like, we want to protect our automobile business, and so does Mark. But we want to make the automobile.
All right, so my energy's fading here from the Fetterman thing. But holy crap, this is what's happened. This is what's up. You see that there's just, things are coming apart. Things are coming apart. And if you're a sane person, not sane because we're all fucked, but whatever, you're somebody who's at least reality based in some way. You're a reasonable person, practical, and you can look at somebody like Fetterman going, how the fuck is this guy a senator? How is Joe Biden? How did Trump get elected? This narcissist, the people who are, just looking at the person as a person, not their political policies, not the, shit that they say they believe in, not the stuff not the fans that are convinced that this person's whatever it is. They're just fucked up people. They're not better. They should be better, right? They should be somebody you can look up to. Not mock and look down on. The news people, right? They're just so low fucking functioning. The idiocracy, the fucked in the headness, right? You look at all these people, and that's what that's the whole thing. I got maybe one or two more things to get to here. Let me just take a break. Okay, so I went out and took a little walk, and I ate lunch, so I have a little bit more energy. Let's go a little bit deeper into this thing, and I want to get to a few other things to get them off my toolbar. They're all important in air quotes. they're all essential. They're all things you can't live without hearing.
And we want to, we have a tremendous abundance of energy, more than any country. We have, just in Alaska alone, Anwar has been reopened now. Anwar is probably the largest find anywhere in the world. They say it's larger than Saudi Arabia. I don't know, but it's a lot.
I don't know. That's what they say. Trump talks about they quite a bit. That's what they say. Who's they? Is they a specific group of people? Is it an ethnic group? Is it it's they. That's what they say. I hear they are saying that. I don't say it. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not one of they. But they say, not they, them, because that wouldn't be, I don't like that shit. But they.
But we have tremendous amounts of energy. Other countries don't. We're both lucky in that way. They have energy. We have energy. We have more than we can ever use. And
they have energy. We have energy. Together we have a ton of energy. We got more energy than anybody. We're going to go back in the back room and strip down to our underwear, bounce up and down on the bed for some reason. Too much energy.
More than we could ever sell, actually. And you have the same thing. So
why are you even talking about this? Like, because you're not going to sell it back and forth.
Countries that are very lucky. If you look at China, they don't have that. It's a big disadvantage. Other countries, most countries don't have. Most countries don't have that. So Canada and us, we have a lot of advantages over other places.
Okay, well, where are you going with this, brah? He's fucking losing it, right?
When you consider what Mr. Carney just said, that Canada is not for sale, does this make the discussion a little more difficult to start on?
No, not at all. No, not at all. No, time will tell. It's only time. But I say, never say never. I've had many, many things that were not doable, and they ended up being doable, and only doable in a very friendly way. But if it's to everybody's benefit, Canada loves us, and we love Canada. That's, I think, the number one thing that's important. But we'll see. I mean, over time, we'll see what happens.
Is the U.S. prepared to walk away from that pact?
From what pact?
USMCA.
No, it's fine. It's there. It's good. We use it for certain things. It's there. We have the USMCA is a good deal for everybody. I won't say this about Mark, but I didn't like his predecessor. I didn't like a person that worked for. She was terrible, actually. She was a terrible person. And she really hurt that deal very badly because she tried to take advantage of the deal and she didn't get away with it. You know who I'm talking about. But we had a bad relationship having to do with the fact that
this doesn't sound like you at all, Trump. You get along with everyone so much that you would have a beef with some woman. Was she nasty? Was this woman nasty, perchance? Because you don't like those nasty girls.
Disagreed with the way they viewed the deal, and we ended it. We ended that relationship pretty much. The USMCA is great for all countries. It's good for all countries. We do have a negotiation coming up over the next year or so to adjust it or terminate it.
Mr. President, I'll say a word on USMCA, if I may, Mr. President. It is a basis for a broader negotiation. Some things about it are going to have to change. And part of the way you've conducted these tariffs has taken advantage of existing aspects of USMCA. So it's going to have to change. There's other elements that are come, and that's part of what we're going to discuss.
Right.
During the campaign, Prime Minister Carney talked about the American betrayal. How do you react if Canada decided not to shop in the American store as much as before and decided to partner with other countries?
Well, we don't do much business with Canada from our standpoint. They do a lot of business with us. We're at like 4%. And
look at what this thing is just called bullshit with his head. This guy's kind of great. He's totally. I mean, he's not talking tough like he was before, which sucks. But watch his head right here.
Other countries.
Well, we don't do much business with Canada from our standpoint. They do a lot of business with us. We're at like 4%.
See if I can get that again. We're not going back as far.
With Canada from our standpoint, they do a lot of business with us. We're at like 4%. And usually those things don't last very long. We have great things, great product. The kind of product we sell, nobody else can sell.
Yeah, except for people make superior products like in Europe and some cases Canada and some places where there's better stuff.
Including military. Look, we make the best military equipment.
Yeah, that's not something to be proud of, bro. Spreading death and destruction around the world with our fucking bullshit military industrial complex. Yeah, we make the weapons that murder children all around the world. We make the best
in the world, and Canada buys our military equipment, which we appreciate. But we make the best.
Thanks, Canada.
Military equipment in the world by far. The missiles, the submarines, everything we have is really top notch. I rebuilt our military during our last term. Stupidly, we gave some away to Afghanistan, which shouldn't have happened. But that was. Who
did that? Who the fuck did that? Who the fuck was giving away our military?
Most embarrassing moment in the history of our country.
That was pretty fucking embarrassing, that moment.
It was
not when he droned 8 kids, but when he left valuable military equipment behind.
Very incompetent people. But if you...
Who is this incompetent person you keep on referring to? Name that guy. Say his name.
Look, the man that's now the head of our Joint Chiefs, he led the attack on ISIS for me. That's why he's the head of the Joint Chiefs.
Yeah, all he had to do was stop ordering ISIS to do shit because they were our asset. Admit it, motherfucker. ISIS is an American asset. We just told them, you just as president, which is good on you, told them to stop fucking doing shit. We're not doing any more false flag bullshit. And or you didn't know about it and they couldn't do it without your knowledge or whatever the fuck had happened. But that's what happened. It wasn't that they did something to ISIS.
And Raising Cane, he was unbelievable. And as you know, we defeated ISIS in
We were ISIS defeaters.
3 weeks. It was supposed to take 5 years. We did it in 3 weeks.
You're the best. Fucking amazing. These guys been sitting here must like fucking cringe and be like, I can't believe I have to fucking lick this guy's taint. He's taint. He can't believe it. Like he's got to sit there and just lap it up.
And he ran the campaign. I said I like him, but I knew him before. I went to Iraq and we agreed to a plan, and that was the plan. And
yeah, where in Iraq did you really go though? Like,
as you know, we did it in record time.
You went to Iraq, or you go to Iraq?
So we have the best equipment in the world. We have the best.
Trump calls U.S. Canada border artificial line.
Best a lot of things, but Canada it does a lot more business with us than we do with Canada. Yeah.
You know what I don't like Canada though? Like let's get this straight. Why do you call them Canada geese and not Canadian geese? It's fucked up. That's not how language works. I mean, it's kind of shit Fetterman might say. What can we stop that? Can we just call them Canadian geese for Christ's sakes? What do you guys call them, geese?
Mr. President, what changes would you like to see to the USMCA? What changes would you like to see?
We're going to work on some subtle changes, maybe. I don't even know if we're going to.
All right, let's move on here. This is probably pretty funny because Trump is just like, he's just out of bounds. Trump's out of bounds. Mattel warns of price hikes after Trump reiterates that kids can deal with fewer dolls. Asked whether tariffs could lure more toy manufacturing back to the U.S., the company's CEO said, "We don't see that happening." So this is, is there an ad here? What's happening here? So this is just Trump, his bullshit interview on Meet the Press. Mattel said it's considering raising prices on U.S. toy shoppers, warning that comes one day after President Trump's doubled down on comments that American children don't need more than a handful of dolls. Part of the uncertainty is they don't know how long the tariffs are going to be there, whether you trust Trump is using it just to bluff, if these things are going to be permanent. Like, they have no idea. Like, Trump is just so inconsistent. He says so many different fucking conflicting things. He's a nightmare. Like, he's destroying these fucking people, like these companies and shit. And then, they have to do projections. They have to figure out what they're going to charge. They're in deals already with big box stores, so the prices are kind of fixed. And now all these things. Toys are such an essential part of children's lives, Mattel CEO Ynon Kreiz told CNBC on Tuesday. While the maker of Barbie dolls and Hot Wheels cars, holy shit, fuck Barbie, but these Hot Wheels cars, is committed to the uninterrupted supply of quantity products at a wide range of affordable price points. He said Trump's tariffs have put price hikes on the table. Where necessary, we'll be taking price action in the U.S. Consumers are extremely price sensitive when it comes to toys and then all these other things. What happens if people start going outside of America to buy shit, right? Or, whatever they do to try to avoid the tariffs. See, the thing is, it just takes a little while before something becomes normal. They still go after Trump for his dumbass, stupid shit he says about reopening Alcatraz, or we can, kids can go without Chinese junk. But it's not as bad as it would be when Trump first started to become a public figure. Like Fetterman not being able to complete a sentence and Joe Biden taking a shit in his Depends diapers, walking around fucking, my eyes been wiped, right? All this shit that Biden did. It was like, okay, Biden's just senile. Biden's got dementia. It's just what it is. And it becomes normalized. Fetterman's fucking mentally incompetent to do his job. Okay, that's just what it is. Like, there's outrage and then you just let it go. And that becomes normal. And Trump says fucking horrific shit, stupid shit, destabilizing shit. That's just Trump being an asshole again. He don't know what he's talking about. And they say things about it. but it's not like the shock value is worn off, right? That's just what it is. Okay, so this is going to be epic. I watched the first couple minutes of this.
Time for a Hannity Washington White House briefing. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt is with us. Caroline, thank you.
Fake Christian Barbie, fake truther.
Alcatraz, tell me more.
Great to see you, Sean. Thank you so much. And this is a phenomenal idea by President Trump.
Phenomenal idea, Caroline. Phenomenal idea, fake Christian Barbie truther. Is that what you're going with? You have no critical thinking skills? Like that's how much of a Trump taint licker you got to be? It's a phenomenal idea to reopen Alcatraz. Is that what you're saying? Like, Jesus.
Great to see you, Sean. Thank you so much. And this is a phenomenal idea by President Trump that will be executed upon. In fact,
yeah, it will be executed. It's not some bullshit thing that we're doing because, the guy's senile. We pat him on the head, and we hope he actually fucking forgets about it because it's fucking crazy as shit. It's bad shit crazy. No, it's a phenomenal idea, and we're really going to do this thing.
I can confirm for you that the White House has already administered calls with the Bureau of Prisons, our counterparts at the Department of Justice, and our counterparts at the Department of Interior, because
and they all said, "Holy fuck, you want to do what? Is April fucking Fools? Are you actually serious? Is this child actually wants to reopen Alcatraz?"
Alcatraz is now run by the National Park Service. And
yeah, it's not even part of, I mean, just like so fucking silly.
Our great Secretary of Interior, Doug Burgum, is in charge of that. So the Bureau of Prisons has already confirmed that they are assessing next steps to...
Look, this is this bullshit fake little tiny little fist thing that he did. And that bullshit ketchup gate where he faked like he got, put ketchup on his ear and pretended he got shot in the ear. That fake fucking assassination attempt. Right? That fight thing he does.
Reopen this notorious prison.
This notorious prison. What?
Reason for it is because President Trump is leaving no stone unturned to restore law.
To do everything that he can do to destroy this country as quick as possible. This fucking dumbass.
In order to our country and to make it very clear to criminals, repeat offenders, not just illegal immigrant criminals, but also American citizens who have refused to comply with our nation's laws. If you have been repeatedly breaking the law, if you are in and out of prison, that is ending under this administration.
That's it. You're going into prison forever. We're going to fucking throw you into the rock and fucking close the door. We're going to throw you fucking out of the country, into this... the Alcatraz is a rock island out off the coast of San Francisco. And anybody with half a brain can figure out this is cost prohibitive. The reason they closed down the thing in the first place, I mean, everything's got to be boated in, and the tides there are uncertain. It's like shark-infested waters, and the idea was that prisoners aren't going to jump out. Even if they escaped, where are they going to go? They're going to swim to the fucking shores of San Francisco, and these, heavy riptides and whatever else that goes on there, shark infested, whatever it's happening. But like all the workers have to be boated in. So first of all, you had this old ass fucking prison that's been closed for years, and now it's a tourist destination. So they must have a dock somewhere, and you go out, when it's not stormy weather, and it's a national park, so it's like people go there and they tour the place. And, it was like not up to the standards of prisons today. So they have to rebuild everything. They have to bring all the materials. This is a fucking guy who claims he wants to save money with Doge, right? And it's just symbolic. It's what Alcatraz means to people of Trump's generation, because there are some movies and shit about it, like old movies when I was a kid. I'm 60. So this is, Trump's generation that thought, they called it The Rock, right? So Escape from the Rock, some fucking clown. But we all know I think everybody knows that federal prisons are cushy. Trump's rich friends like Jeffrey Epstein and those motherfuckers who go to federal prison, and it's a cakewalk compared to state prisons. And I think Alcatraz was once a state prison, but him doing this will make it into a federal prison. And so federal prisons are like country clubs compared to the state prisons, and it's usually for rich criminals. Most of the convictions are state convictions. So if he's talking about criminality, he's talking about convicting American citizens with federal crimes and sending them to fucking Alcatraz. And what she just said here was that you're going in and out of prison, those days are over. Well, you're going to kill them or are you going to put them in prison permanently? You know, people who are repetitive criminals. Now, Trump has been convicted of a felon, and I know there's been a lot of shit he's done that skirted the law. And he had a fixer. He has a team of lawyers to keep him from being convicted because he's okay with himself being a criminal. But he's going after these other people, but not Hillary Clinton. Like, he came straight out and said that he wasn't going to convict Hillary Clinton if, you know, because she was the former president's wife and it would do bad thing for the morale of the country. Who the fuck are you to decide who goes to prison or not? Why did you throw Hillary Clinton in the rock then? You know, it's a fucking stupid idea. It's cost prohibitive. You know, it would, I mean, to rebuild the prison, to boat workers in and out of the place. And they all have to come in on boats and shifts and shit like that. And then just all the other conditions that are there. Like, you know, how do you get energy out there? Do you have to run cables under the fucking ocean to get, you know, power? I mean, it's a whole fucking nightmare of a thing, right? I mean, they have energy out there now to tourists. It's a wholly different thing to run a prison. And so, you know, you'd have to rebuild the whole thing. It's not suitable for modern day, you know, and it's just symbolic, right? She's trying to say that he's getting tough, but it's just throwing away more taxpayer dollars, this dumb motherfucker. It's what a child would do, right?
The law, if you are in and out of prison, that is ending under this administration.
Okay, what does that mean, fucking dope? What do you mean by if you're in and out of prison, that's ending?
President Trump's team is going to enforce our laws and prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. So we are absolutely looking into this, assessing next steps, and it's a part of...
Wait, we absolutely are looking into this? That sounds like a bullshit thing. Like, you guys already know it's fucking stupid, but you guys are such taint lickers, you're afraid to come out here and say, yeah, it was a dumb fucking idea. We think this motherfucker's senile, right?
The president's big picture law and order agenda, which is obviously working, especially when you look at the illegal border crossings at our southern border.
You're not going to put illegal aliens in there, dumbass.
Border is secure. Mass deportations are underway.
Plus, she's always this loud cheerleader. She's just screaming at Sean Hannity, all pumped up, like, "Yay, team, go! We got fucking team spirit. Go, Trump! We're the taint lickers.
Law and order.
We're the Trump taint lickers."
Back in America, thanks to President Trump.
Law and order's back, baby.
Caroline, what did you and the administration make of the Sinaloa cartel gang member interviewed on CNN?
Oh, this fucking bad. Oh my God, that happened. Holy shit. I bet she's not going to like it. I bet she's not going to fucking like it. The odds are 100 to 1 that she's not going to like it.
Care what he thinks.
Well, it was fascinating to me, Sean. I was actually...
She was fascinated. She was fascinated.
Scrolling on Instagram when I came across...
Wait, you were scrolling on Instagram? You were scrolling on fucking Instagram? Is that what happened?
This interview, and it stopped me in my tracks.
She has tracks. She's going along some tracks. She has train tracks, and scrolling on Instagram, and she sees this interview, and it stops her fucking cold in her fucking tracks.
Not just because they...
Like she's a Stepford Wives. Like, she's not even fucking human.
Sat down with a member of a Mexican cartel that is now designated as a foreign terrorist organization by the United States government.
Because that's a bullshit thing. That's a bullshit designation, right? Because you're either in a gang or you're a terrorist. You're not both. You know, gangs are not terrorist organizations. They sell drugs. Terrorists are considered worse, but they're actually rebels, right? Rebels are rebelling because it's countries like Palestine that doesn't have an army, or people are being oppressed by some foreign government or some, local government, and they don't have the ability to fight back with an army. They don't have the money, so they get into what's called the rebellion and their insurgencies, and they're not villains. They're usually the heroes, like in Star Wars, where the rebels are taking on the Empire, and we're clearly the Empire, and there's all these rebels out there. We're eating their food. We're sticking their food in our ghoul holes. Right? We have all this fucking abundance of food, 25% of the world's resources, and we're shoving it into our fat fucking faces. And the people don't like it because they're starving and shit. We're taking their stuff, and they don't like it. And, it's not America, it's some other country. And so to call them fucking terrorists, they're drug dealers, which is actually kind of worse, right? They're cartel people, the cartels are known for their brutality. but just can't call something a terrorist because it's political. Just like changing the name of Gulf of fucking America to, Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America. It's just childish shit they're doing. Like Trump's like it's some sort of little club, like it's some little clubhouse, and he had this list of shit he was going to do if he was president. He thought out with his little fucking friends, and now he's trying to execute all these things. Well, we'll reopen Alcatraz. We'll change Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America, and we'll take Greenland for our very own. I don't know who owns it now, but we'll see that in the future because I like Greenland, I like the sound of it, and we'll make Canada the 51st state. It's like fucking, so the child would say things. Alex, I'll take things a child would say for 500.
But because of the nature of the questions of this notorious foreign terrorist.
It's just crazy. It's crazy. Fucking this foreign terrorist. So the name of this thing is Caroline Leavitt. This was a despicable interview by CNN. I had no idea what it is. And now I don't care because, CNN roasted for interviewing Sinaloa cartel member. Like all of a sudden these gangs are like, because Trump's trying to, he just bullshits about stuff. He made up that shit about them eating the dogs. He took something that was like internet bullshit rumors that wasn't true. What are they doing now in Springfield, Ohio? Are they deporting, what are they doing with these people there that are, I think most of them are there legally. They're not sending them to El Salvador because they're Haitian. They brought all these Haitian people in because half the population of that town left. And some woman lost her cat, and one of her friends said, I bet those Haitians ate it, on Facebook. And Trump and J.D. Vance checked it out. J.D. Vance asked the mayor and said, no, they're not eating fucking cats and dogs here. And fucking J.D. Vance knew it was bullshit. But Trump went on the debate and repeated that stuff, right? And this fucking taint-licking moron, comes out, the Stepford fucking wives, and just does this crazy-ass shit. Just fucking stop it, right? It's just embarrassing. So Trump definitely took a softer tone when the guy was there. But when they talk all this bullshit, this guy was talking like a hard ass and Trump was just fucking disparaging Canada left and right. And it was like, no, we're good friends, all this shit, right? Like they changed their tune. But this guy changed his tune a lot. Like he was definitely taint-licking. But here he is before when he's making a statement.
On Tuesday, I had a very constructive call with President Trump. And we agreed to meet next Tuesday in Washington.
Boom. Yesterday.
Our focus will be on both immediate trade pressures and the broader future economic and security relationship between our two sovereign...
Seems like Trump was pretty keen on Canada becoming the 51st state, so I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
...sovereign nations. My government will fight to get the best deal for Canada.
Will you? Sound like you were doing a lot of taint-licking, if that's what you got to do to get the best deal. Probably.
We will take all the time necessary, but not more, in order to do so.
We're not going to take extra time. We're just only the amount necessary. We're not going to just fucking go to the Bahamas in the middle of the thing just to take some extra time.
In parallel, we will strengthen our relationships with reliable trading partners and allies. Canada has what the world needs, and we uphold the values the world respects.
Canada's such a catch. They got what the world needs.
What specifically do you want to get out of your first in-person meeting with President Trump, and will you be focused on trying to get the tariffs lifted?
Thank you for the question. For the first meeting, as I mentioned in my remarks, and the president.
See, these guys have to be a lot more polite and different than American politicians, right? People think of like these jobs, as being important, and that people that get them have something going on. There's some kind of evolution. They're somehow better in some way. But then when you see the people as you get older, you're like, they're a bunch of fucking chuckleheads, and they're, disreputable and corrupt and just despicable, all the fucking bad things, right? And they're like, well, why don't we put better politicians in there? And they don't get it. If all the politicians suck, they're weird and they're liars and they're fake actors, bad actors. They do fake shit. They say fake fucking shit. They repeat these lines. They're handled. They're never sincere or genuine or authentic. They're just, the opposite of being real people. And people don't understand, like, that's because that's the kind of person you got to be to do the job. It's so corrupt. It's so handled by, you have to be people who want money and wealth and power, and you don't mind selling your fucking soul to these horrible fucking institutions and foreign governments and all these people, right? All these people that pay you to fuck over the American people and destroy people of the world and, push the military-industrial complex and support the evil empire agenda. And so the reason why all the candidates suck, and it's hard to identify with them because they're all fucking horrible ghouls, like fucking some kind of, compromised sellouts, collaborators who are just, evil in every way and will do anything for wealth and power and fame and all the things they get with being a politician. And so, people get the job that they can do, that the people they get around the people they can be around. And, you wouldn't want to be around these politicians. Same reason you wouldn't want to be around these media people or these Hollywood celebrities, right? They're all despicable people. It's a horrible situation for anybody to be in if you're a good person. And not even a good person, just somebody who's authentic and real. And all that you're around these fake predators who put out these two-faced fucking, these personas and shit. This is what you have to be in the upper echelon of our society. Everyone wants to be rich and famous. But then you look at the rich and famous people, you're like, I don't want to hang around with them. They're not better than everyone else. Like you're told to believe it, that you've been told since you were a kid that these people are just better because they're famous and they're rich. They're horrible people that are working for a horrible system. They're the most degraded people. And they're the biggest taint lickers ever because they'll eat shit. They'll do whatever they have to do to retain their, to gain these positions and then to keep them. Anyways, let me wrap this one up here. Only spirituality will save this world. It's power motto, definitely important for the apocalypse. And the ascension, I want to have a blessed day and be grateful.